The night was calm, the forest alive with the subtle symphony of chirping crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl. I sat by the campfire, its flames licking the cool night air, casting long, dancing shadows on the surrounding trees. The fire was my only company on this remote expedition, a break from the noise of human civilization and a chance to find peace within the wild. That solitude, however, was shattered by the soft hum of a presence I couldn't immediately identify. It began with a faint rustle in the bushes. My pulse quickened as I grabbed the flashlight beside me, the beam cutting through the darkness. I expected a deer, perhaps a fox, but the sight that greeted me left me frozen. She emerged from the shadows, tall and elegant, with an otherworldly glow that shimmered faintly around her. Her skin was a pale blue, almost translucent, and her eyes, large and luminous, seemed to hold galaxies within them. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, defying gravity as if caught in an eternal underwater current. She was unmistakably alien, yet there was something hauntingly human about her expression: curiosity, fear, and determination. Her gaze locked onto the fire. Her features hardened, and with a sharp movement of her hand, she drew a strange weapon from her side. It resembled a crystal dagger, its edges pulsing with an inner light. My hands instinctively rose in surrender, the universal gesture of peace. "Wait," I stammered, my voice shaky. "I mean no harm." She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. A series of clicks and melodic tones spilled from her lips, a language unlike anything I had ever heard. Her tone was accusatory, demanding. When I didn't respond, she pointed at the fire with her dagger, her expression darkening. "It's just a campfire," I said, realizing she likely couldn't understand me. I gestured toward the flames, then to myself, miming warmth and cooking. She didn't lower her weapon. Instead, she took a step closer, her stance more aggressive. The air seemed to ripple around her, a subtle distortion that hinted at some unseen power. I glanced at the fire, then back at her, and the pieces began to click together. Did she think it was a signal? A threat? Perhaps in her culture or her world, fire was synonymous with war. I grabbed a stick and drew a crude figure in the dirt, a person sitting by a fire. Then, I drew another figure standing peacefully nearby. I pointed to myself, then to the drawing, hoping she'd understand. Her eyes flicked to the ground, then back to me. Slowly, she lowered the dagger, though her posture remained tense. She took another step closer, her glowing eyes studying me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Then, she crouched beside the drawing, tracing a delicate finger over the lines. When she looked up, there was a flicker of realization in her gaze. Encouraged, I gestured for her to sit by the fire. She hesitated, her eyes darting between the flames and me. Finally, she sat, though she positioned herself at an angle that allowed her to keep a wary eye on me. Up close, I could see the intricate patterns etched into her skin. Like veins of light, they pulsed faintly, as though responding to her emotions. "I'm John," I said, placing a hand on my chest. "John." She watched me, unblinking, before mimicking the gesture. "Lasha," she said, her voice melodic, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Lasha," I repeated. A small smile played on her lips, and for the first time, the tension between us eased. I reached for my backpack and pulled out a granola bar, unwrapping it slowly to show I meant no harm. I offered it to her. She eyed it suspiciously but took it, examining the wrapper and its contents with the precision of a scientist. After a moment, she took a tentative bite. Her eyes widened, and she let out a soft, delighted trill. We sat in silence for a while, the crackling fire bridging the gap between our worlds. She seemed fascinated by the flames, leaning closer to feel their warmth. I took the opportunity to study her more closely. Her clothing, if it could be called that, was a seamless blend of metallic and organic material, shifting subtly as she moved. Her hands, with their elongated fingers, were both delicate and powerful, capable of holding that deadly dagger and tracing gentle patterns in the dirt. "Where are you from?" I asked, knowing she wouldn't understand but unable to stop myself. I pointed to the sky, then to her. She followed my gesture, her expression softening. She raised a hand, drawing a series of shapes in the air. Constellations, perhaps? I wished I could decipher their meaning. As the night deepened, she began to speak again, her words interspersed with gestures and tones that seemed almost musical. I could feel the emotion in her voice, frustration, hope, fear. I responded as best I could, using drawings and gestures to convey my understanding. Slowly, we began to build a fragile connection. She explained, or so I interpreted, that she had been searching for something. A signal. A lost companion. I couldn't be sure. What I did understand was that she had mistaken my campfire for something far more significant. When I pointed to myself and mimed being alone, she tilted her head, her expression unreadable. Then, she reached into a small pouch at her side and pulled out a device, its surface shimmering like liquid mercury. She pressed a series of symbols, and a holographic image appeared. A planet, barren and desolate, with a single bright light glowing on its surface. I nodded, though I didn't fully understand. Was she a scout? An explorer? A refugee? Her eyes searched mine, as if willing me to comprehend the weight of her mission. As dawn began to break, she stood, her movements fluid and purposeful. She pointed to the fire, then to herself, then to the sky. Her expression was resolute. I understood. She had to leave. "Wait," I said, grabbing my notebook. I quickly sketched a crude map of the area, marking my location with an X and adding symbols for water and shelter. I handed it to her, hoping it would help. She studied it, then looked at me with something that resembled gratitude. Before she turned to go, she placed a hand over her chest, then extended it toward me. A gesture of thanks. Farewell. I mimicked the motion, and she smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that made her alien features seem almost human. She stepped back, the air shimmering around her as she activated some kind of cloaking field. Within moments, she vanished, leaving me alone with the dying embers of the fire. I sat there for a long time, replaying the encounter in my mind. Lashaw had been a visitor from another world, her purpose and destination still a mystery. But in those fleeting hours, we had bridged an unimaginable divide. The campfire, once a symbol of misunderstanding, had become a beacon of connection. As I packed up my belongings and prepared to leave, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd ever see her again. The universe was vast, and our meeting had been a chance collision in an infinite expanse. Yet, as I looked to the sky, I felt a strange sense of hope. Perhaps, somewhere out there, Lashaw was looking up at the same stars, remembering the night she mistook a campfire for a sign of war, and found, instead, a friend.